Hi, this is Josiah, and today I'm going to talk about a slightly more controversial topic. Today I'm going to talk about the 45th President of the United States of America, Donald J. Trump, and whether it was God's purpose for him to win the election or not. The thing to remember about politics is that when talking about politics, and you are a believer of God like you and I, is that He knows everything. God knows everything. He has set the end from the beginning. That He knows the future from the beginning. That nothing happens that He cannot say so. Every single president that has won the United States election and any other elections around the world has been by His hand that has elected them. No amount of cheating or bribing or assassination can stop that. Granted, those things do happen, but it is His will to elect that specific candidate. Now, there are candidates that arise up that are not necessarily His will, but what He will put in office, because that is what the people would want. That they do want. Think of King Saul. Yahweh did not want a king of Israel. He was the king. He was the king of Israel. He was to lead them, and the priests, and I guess the prophets, would tell Israel what Yahweh wanted. However, they said, we want a king, until the prophet Samuel said, what should I do about this? And Yahweh said, give them what they want. Give them a king. I will still be with them. And he elected them King Saul. Now, we know that King Saul was good to Israel at first. However, as many of you probably know, he kind of ended up being a bad nut towards the end. He became very crazy. In fact, he was actually possessed by demons and stuff. So he was he started acting without God's guidance, which is never a good thing. It got so bad, King Saul's rule, that eventually Yahweh anointed David to become king of Israel. And the prophet Samuel went out and anointed David, which was like right before he slew Goliath, I believe. Don't remember at the top of my head right now. And so we know that with King David in office as king of Israel, that set forward a series of events, and eventually the Messiah would come through his bloodline. And the temple. So we see that Yahweh elects kings sometimes because the people don't want them. We see that He also puts in good kings that are 100% His will, like King David. The thing to also consider is that He also elects bad rulers, evil rulers. Think of Pharaoh from Exodus, the Pharaoh that did not know Joseph. He was a very evil man. And even the Pharaoh that Moses went up against, he said, for this purpose you were born, so I could destroy you. Because, well, you guys know how the story of Moses goes. For this purpose I put you on this earth so that I could destroy you. Or I'm not sure that's the exact quote or not. But Pharaoh was a very evil man. We know this. Really, anybody that could enslave others is just truly an evil person. Hurting the weak to favor the strong. So we know that Pharaoh is evil. We know that he hated Yahweh. We know that he thought himself as God, because pharaohs believed themselves to be, I can't remember if they believed themselves to be gods, which they did, or they believed that they were half gods. But either way, they believed they were divine. So he hated Yahweh, and he hated Israel for that purpose. However, Yahweh still is the one that put him in charge. He was the one that allowed him to enslave Israel. Or not that Pharaoh, but the Pharaoh who didn't know Joseph. So we see throughout the scriptures that Yahweh elects righteous kings and truly evil kings. He also sometimes puts people in office that are not his will, but because that's what the people want. Because that's what they're wanting, he's pretty much fine, then take it. You got what you wanted. So we know that those are the three types of rulers that he allows to be elected. So the question that remains now is, which one of these categories does President Trump fit in? So to clarify which class President Trump fits in, righteous, wicked, or just there because that was the will of the people, we have to first look at his deeds. What has he done? Even if you don't personally agree with them, we have to view how they fit compared to the Word of God. Again, the Word says that you will know them by their fruit. That if an apple says it's an orange, but it tastes like an apple, then it's an apple. No matter, you can say it's an orange all you want, but it will still, at the end of the day, be an apple. So, knowing that, we have to look at deeds he has done. So the first thing we're going to look at to find out what kind of leader he is that the fact that Hillary Clinton does not like him. Now, this is not a blast Hillary Clinton video. However, it is very well known that she went to Haiti and spent her honeymoon or remarriage or something like that with former President Bill Clinton, her husband, and they spent their weekend with a witch doctor or voodoo priest or something like that. He does black magic. By her own admission, in her book, What Happened, she said that she wanted to stick people with voodoo dolls. Okay? So that means she is into the occult. She's into black magic and stuff. Is that the thing is, if Trump was wicked, if he was a wicked leader, then Hillary Clinton might not like him, or forget Hillary, someone into the occult might not like him, but they wouldn't actively seek out to destroy him, which is what, not that Hillary's seeking out to destroy him, but her friends and colleagues are, trying to impeach him and all this crazy stuff. You guys probably know what's going on. And I say this because the scriptures say that demons cannot fight other demons. I forget where it is. I'll throw it up on screen. It was in the New Testament, and Yeshua or Jesus was somewhere, I forget, and he was casting out someone that was being plagued by a demon. And the Sanhedrin or Pharisees or one of the I forget exactly which group they were from, but they came up and said, see, he is employing demons. He is using demons and black magic to cast these out. This is a show, and what Yeshua says is that a house divided against itself shall fall. Right? Abe Lincoln quoted that scripture, but what that means is that Satan cannot fight Satan. A demon cannot cast out a demon, because a house divided against itself shall fall. Even the devil knows that, pretty much is what he's saying. So, would someone into the occult, someone that likes darkness, try to cast out someone that is darkness? Again, you don't have to agree with him. You don't have to like him. We're just looking at the facts here. The second thing to look at to determine what kind of leader he is that what he has done to the White House. Because supposedly, I can't talk ever, supposedly, he, mostly because of Melania, but he still allowed it, he still initiated it, is that supposedly that the Clintons and the Obamas had all of these voodoo statues devoted to to pagan gods and magic and ritual sacrifice and blah blah blah, voodoo-y stuff. And supposedly Melania said, I'm not going in there until it's been cleaned. So Trump brought, like, I forget the exact number, but it was quite a few different pastors and other I think it was just pastors, and they were anointing everything, they were praying over everything, they threw out all of the idols, they cleaned house pretty much. They I forget the exact term of that, but they cleaned house, they expelled whatever evil was living in there. Again, we have to look at, if he were truly evil, again, you don't have to agree with him, you don't even have to like him, but if he were truly evil, truly one of darkness, would he want to even allow his wife to chase out evil spirits and other pagan gods? Even if he was one of darkness, would he hate that darkness? The third thing we're going to look at is that what he has done to Israel, because Obama had a very, very negative view of Israel. So did the Clintons. Had Hillary won, she said that it was going to be a two-state solution, Palestine and Israel. However, Trump has respected Israel. And, in fact, he's even moved the U.S. Embassy to Israel. And there's, of course, protests and stuff. We're not talking about that. However, moving that embassy towards Israel, we have to remember what the Father said to Abraham. I will bless those who bless you and curse those who curse you. If Trump is helping out with Israel and blessing them, saying you can keep you can keep a state, Palestine's not a state, Israel is, then he is helping out Israel, our Jewish brothers and sisters. If he were evil, he probably wouldn't be helping them out. No, he would be trying to divide the land. He would be trying to give it to the Palestinians. He would not have moved the embassy there, by no means, because we know that throughout history, look back at Pharaoh, look at pretty much every would-be conqueror of history, they always prey on Israel. They always want Israel gone. Why? Because this is a fallen world. It is a dark and corrupt world, and Israel is the chosen people of Yahweh. Therefore, it actively seeks out and hunts them down. Now, granted, there are evil Jews. We know this, but there's evil people, regardless of race or gender, whatever else, qualifications. There's always a few bad nuts, if you know what I mean. So, Trump helping out with Israel, a person of darkness would not help out Israel. One that is truly evil. Again, all of them, even evil leaders that Yahweh elects, Hasatan, Satan, still tries to use them. He enters their hearts. Because remember, it was Yahweh's will that Yeshua or Jesus be crucified. However, it says that the adversary entered Judas. Or, Judas. I can't remember his Hebrew name at the top of my head. So there's that the enemy still tries to use people, regardless if they're Yahweh's will or not. And if Satan was with Trump, he would not be saving Israel. He would be trying to exterminate them and destroy them. The last thing we're going to talk about of whether he is chosen by God or not. Again, you don't have to like him. You can hate him, but just understand that it is Yahweh that has elected him. I'm going to tell a story here, and it really is the purpose of it, is that God's hand was completely in the election, as I remember. If you remember back to the election, the 2016 presidential election, it was a very electric day. There was something different about that day. It was like everyone knew that this was do or die. You had people that typically did not talk political, start talking political and fighting with each other. But I remember there's this poll chart. I'll try to see if I can't find a picture to show you guys. There was this chart, and it was like 0, and there was like, I don't know, 75 or 100 or something on there of numbers. 0 being the worst of who you, blah, blah, blah. As you're getting voted for, if no one's voting for you, it's 0. The higher it is, the more people that are voting for you. And Clinton, again, this is not a hate Hillary Clinton video, but she was at the top, and Trump was at like, she was like at 60 or something, and Trump was at like 10, right? At the bottom, losing. I remember it was like, I think it was like 12 Mountain Time. Because where I live, it was 12 Mountain Time. I remember seeing on my mom's Facebook that the faith movement, which I think is Kenneth Copeland in them, down in Texas. I could be wrong about that. I'm not well versed in movement leader names. Was that around that time they started praying, saying, Lord, your will be done. And I remember all these Israeli prayer things too were saying, Yahweh, your will be done. Of course, they didn't call him Yahweh, but, they were saying, your will be done. Hear us and handle this. Because no one knew which way to go. Because, at least at first to me, even Trump seemed like, oh boy, you're choosing a tyrant for a tyrant. So which one are you going to choose, I remember seeing comments of people in Japan in the middle of the night waking up saying, the Lord has pressured me to pray for this election. And so it was just phenomenal. Around the world, believers united and called out to the Almighty. At that same time, those polls where Hillary was on the top and Trump was on the bottom reversed. They crossed, and Trump went all the way to 100% or however high it gets, and Clinton went down all the way down to 0. It reversed. Around that same time the prayers picked up, it reversed. Right? I don't think that's a coincidence. And if you're watching this video, you probably don't think so either. There were reports coming in from that day of voting machines rigged in Hillary's favor, right? There's some rumors and stuff, who knows if they're true or not, but that she has been planning this for decades, since like she was still, I can't remember when she was still First Lady or still part of Arkansas, like being, how do you say it? Being the governor of Arkansas, even though Bill was the governor of Arkansas, but she was still his wife, so they were still in charge of Arkansas. That she was promised, the rumor says, that she would become president the 2016 election. She was going to win it. It was promised to her. There was so much sabotaging and paying people off. We know that Bernie even admits it, Bernie Sanders, that she cheated her way and cheated him out of the election. There's so much corporate money from the powers that be. So much money, so much time, so much effort, decades worth of planning, rigging, probably bumping people off. We know the Clintons kind of liked having people killed, to get her this position. However, when Yahweh's people, us, you and me, my brothers and sisters, cried out to Yahweh, cried out and said, please, Almighty, we do not know what to do, the polls flipped. She cheated and she still lost. And Trump won over her. Again, you don't have to like him. But what happens is that Yahweh put him in office. It wasn't their own planning and paying people off and cheating and rigging. Again, they cheated and they lost. It wasn't their own plotting and their twisting, and I can't even think of words to say for it. But they cheated and they lost, and Trump won. And look at the outcry you have of not only conservative and liberal, or not just liberal, but conservative politicians as well. Again, it's not bad if you're conservative or liberal. It's politicians I'm talking about. The outcry, the hatred from the media that he gets. We know that whatever Yahweh chooses, the world hates. Because the world hates Yahweh. The world follows the god of this world. And that's the adversary. That's Hasatan. That's Satan. The world hates what Yahweh elects. That's why they hate Israel. That's why they hate Christians. That's why they hate Torah observant Jews that believe in Yeshua like me. They hate what Yahweh has elected. They hate his commandments. He says, don't eat pork. The world says, we're going to make that our specialty. He says, follow my Sabbath. The world says, you know what? Saturday's going to be our best day, our run-around day. The world hates what Yahweh has established. So, in my opinion, that's Trump, because there's so much hatred towards him. Like, unjustified hatred. Like, he does some good things. Again, you don't have to agree with it, but he can do something, and he is criticized. He's criticized for holding his water bottle weird. He's criticized for drinking Diet Coke. Like, what? Who cares what a president drinks? No one was talking about Obama, what he drank, and how he held water bottles. No one talked about how Bush held his water bottles, or Clinton, or Reagan. No one talks about that, but the media hates him because Yahweh is the one that put him in charge. Again, so is Trump good or evil? So far, he has appeared to be good. He's been very good in the economy. He's been very good in handling North Korea. This is all my opinion. Of course, if you hate him, that you're entitled to your opinion. That's why in America we have free speech. However, I think he's been pretty good. Can he still turn evil? Absolutely. Look at King Solomon. He turned pretty rancid towards the end. He could still turn evil, yes. But at the end of the day, what you have to think of is that whether he turns evil or whether he goes down in history as the best president ever, or the worst, if that's your opinion, is that Yahweh put him in. It wasn't secret societies and planning and corporate payoffs. It was the hand of the Almighty that elected him and put him in office. Nothing more, nothing less. Well, I'm going to end today off with a prayer. So I ask you to stick around. So, Yahweh, I thank you for this day. And I thank you for my viewers, for them supporting my channel, Yahweh. And I ask that this program is helpful to them, that it will bless them, that it will give them insight, that it will give them understanding, Yahweh, and that it will unite your people together to know that whether they like the president or not, that you are in charge, Yahweh, and I ask you to show that to them, Yahweh, that you are in charge, that nations rise and fall by your hand, Yahweh. For as your word says, the heart of the king is in Yahweh's hands. And I forget what the rest of it is, but you turn it to whichever way you will, Yahweh. So I thank you. I ask you, I pray for the peace of Jerusalem. May you keep Israel safe, Yahweh. And I thank you for my viewers again. And Amen.